Well, it might be hard to find the car you want right now. That's because a chip shortage is affecting the stock of new and used cars. And now shoppers are traveling to find the car they want. A survey by Cars.com says that 10% of car shoppers traveled out of state just to find a certain vehicle. And about the same number of people traveled 25 miles or more to get to a dealership. Wow. In a 3-hour-long summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Geneva yesterday, President Joe Biden says things went exactly as planned. The president says he brought up the issues of human rights and cyber attacks in the meeting. Ties between Russia and the United States were deeply strained, but the president believes that progress can happen with diplomacy.
I did what I came to do.
Despite the tense relationship between the two leaders, Putin says he did not feel any hostility between himself and Biden. Both leaders described the meeting as positive, but without any major breakthroughs. A new produce warehouse is now open in southern Arizona. It expands our region's ability to handle a wider variety of Mexican fruits and vegetables and shows expanded trade capability between Mexico and Arizona. Governor Doug Ducey came out for the formal opening and talked about how a recession and a pandemic can't stop the project.
And now we're setting up for that.
Well, let's take a deeper look at the imports and exports in Arizona during 2020. Data from the Eller College of Management shows that Arizona's exports were valued at about $19.7 billion in 2020, and that's down 20% because of COVID restrictions. The state's highest valued export category is civilian aircraft, engines, and parts. Now, as for imports, they were valued at $25.7 billion in 2020, down 3% over the year. Mexico accounts for 35% of that number. And with monsoon upon us, there's plenty of intense elements to look out for, and one of them is microbursts. 9 on your side's Kyler Diggs has more on the impact. The Maricopa County audit is scheduled to wrap up by the end of the month. Now on Good Morning Tucson, what one election analyst says led to Donald Trump's loss. Plus, the U.S. is following through on their promise to buy millions of vaccines, the plans for dividing up those doses both here and abroad. And the danger of melanoma remains high, how one U of A expert is trying to change that, the research on new medicines that could kill cancer cells altogether. Good morning, Tucson. I'm Chandrea Thomas. Thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and check in with Big Al and April.
Good morning.
During a one-on-one interview with KGUN 9, Governor Doug Ducey spoke about a range of issues, including the governor's decision that he will not allow state universities to require COVID vaccinations or testing as a condition for in-person classes. While he still recommends vaccinations, he wants to remove barriers to in-person learning.
For the kids, the freshmen, the kids that are
in a statement to KGUN 9 earlier this week, the Associate Vice President of External Communications at the U of A said they will comply with the new order. The U.S. just bought an extra 200 million doses of the Moderna vaccine. The company says most of them will be delivered by the end of this year and the rest at the start of 2022. The vaccines could be used as a booster shot to vaccinate kids or be shared with other countries. And now continuing our coverage on the fight against skin cancer, researchers at the U of A Cancer Institute are spending countless hours researching new medicines and ways to battle melanoma. And they're working with people from all across the country to brainstorm about how they want to do that. I sat down with those leading the effort to find out exactly how they're doing it. According to the American Cancer Society, there is some genetic research on how cancer operates in the body, and that's helping doctors and patients move forward with treatments.
These cells out.
Ultimately, the things I'm doing are experimental.
Georg Wondrak is an associate professor and researcher at the University of Arizona Cancer Institute. He spends his days finding ways to destroy melanoma cancers in the body.
I'm the guy who tries to come up with novel weapons on a molecular basis.
It's an issue that Martha Bishop has been dealing with since her first melanoma diagnosis in 2009. That's when she found a mole on her back. Then in 2011, Martha had a PET scan and found out the cancer had spread to her lungs at stage 4.
So I started a clinical trial for Keytruda. That started working within 4 months, and my tumors shrunk little by little, and we finally started getting good news at oncologist appointments.
Wondrak looks at various ways to develop new drugs and therapies. He closely examines tissues and cells, especially since melanoma can spread through the lymph nodes or simply jump to multiple areas and skip the lymph nodes altogether.
The way I approach drug discovery, development of novel therapeutics is I look for Achilles heels that the cancer presents. I look for something that makes the tumor very vulnerable.
My story is a story of hope.
Martha says immunotherapy saved her life, and she's more than happy to participate in a clinical trial in the future.
When I was diagnosed, my kids were 3 and 5, and my goal literally was to get them through kindergarten. And they are 16, they're going to be 17 and 15 this summer.
A man is in critical condition after being shot by police, and he's accused of hitting at least 9 cyclists in Show Low over the weekend. Officials say the suspect swerved his truck into cyclists taking part in a race on Saturday. Show Low police chased the suspect as he drove away from the scene and shot him behind a local hardware store. 7 cyclists are in critical condition and 2 are stable. So far, there's no word on what led to that incident. You might want to check your flight status today. American Airlines canceled nearly 100 flights because of staffing issues. The airline says most of the cancellations are due to a high number of sick calls, but there are also some maintenance issues. Today's canceled flights follow a weekend of 300 canceled flights. There are growing worries that the Delta variant will become the new dominant strain of the coronavirus in the U.S. Testing shows there are about 70 cases of Delta in Arizona and 1 here in Pima County. Pima County's chief medical officer says the county's vaccination rate is about 45%. It makes Pima number 2 in the state, but there's also a high number of unvaccinated people who need protection. Experts say both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are effective against the Delta variant. Right now, we're keeping our eyes on the Walnut Fire in Cochise County. It's burning north of I-10 between Benson and Wilcox. The State Department of Forestry and Fire Management says it's burned at least 260 acres and is not contained. The agency says fire crews and tankers worked together, but hot and dry conditions along with 31-mile-per-hour wind gusts made it very challenging. And west of Sedona, the Coconino County Sheriff's Office has ordered evacuations because of the Raphael fire. It's burned about 10,000 acres, and that's not contained. Fire officials say it's one of several wildfires sparked by thunderstorms in the Prescott National Forest. And just south of that fire, the Backbone Fire has burned more than 24,000 acres, and that fire is not contained either. Evacuation orders were made last week for the towns of Strawberry and Pine. A shelter has also been opened at Payson High School. Officials say the fire was reported last Wednesday and grew to about 6,000 acres in 12 hours. Tourism in southern Arizona is working to recover after major losses during the pandemic. 9 on Your Side's Megan Meyer is live with more on the effort. Good morning, Megan. The CDC says a highly contagious variant of the coronavirus called the Delta variant makes up at least 10% of all cases here in the U.S. During the last week of May, the variant had made up only 2.7% of cases in Arizona. And now the state health department says 49 Delta variant cases have been reported, with Pima County now reporting its first. And you might want to check your flight status today. American Airlines canceled nearly 100 flights because of staffing issues. The airline says most of the cancellations are due to a high number of sick calls, but there are also some maintenance issues. Today's canceled flights follow a weekend of 300 canceled flights. Today, President Biden is expected to talk about the infrastructure plan developed by a bipartisan group of senators. It calls for adding $750 billion in new spending over 8 years for roads, bridges, and other projects. At least 21 senators have publicly stated they will support it, including 11 Republicans. The plan does not include money to address climate change or other human infrastructure issues like childcare or how to pay for it. Bargain hunters, today is your day. Amazon's 48-hour Prime Day sale is happening right now, but to get in on the deals, you will need an Amazon Prime membership, but you don't have to get one all the way. You can sign up for a 30-day trial if you want to. Amazon says last year's Prime Day was the best they had on record. Time on the clock is 6:52. You're watching Good Morning Tucson. A new brush fire is burning in Nogales near the Meadow Hills area. Nogales police shared this video yesterday on Twitter while asking drivers to avoid the area. Police say the community lost water and power for a few hours, but we do have limited details at this moment, but we will keep you updated on air and online. And right now, the Telegraph Fire is officially the 6th largest wildfire in Arizona history. You can see where it's burning on this map right here just south of Globe. And so far, it's 70% contained and has burned more than 173,000 acres. Another fire that has officials worried is the Pinnacle Fire burning west of Safford. And as of this morning, it's burned over 17,000 acres and is 15% contained. A go status has been issued for 2 communities. Today marks the 19th anniversary of one of the top 10 biggest wildfires in Arizona history. It's known as the Rodeo Chetasky Fire, and it burned more than 468,000 acres back in 2002, making it the second largest wildfire our state has ever seen. The biggest is the Wallow Fire that happened back in 2011. Today, Governor Doug Ducey will sign legislation to dedicate nearly $100 million to fighting Arizona's wildfires. The relief package comes from the special session of the state legislature that Ducey called earlier this week. The plan will focus on fire prevention, giving firefighters and community resources they need, and preparing for the after effects of fires like flooding and mudslides. One man is dead after he was shot at a home near Star Pass and La Cholla Boulevard yesterday morning. Tucson police say the victim is 41-year-old Cedric Anthony Pete. Witnesses say an unknown person came into the home and then shots were fired. Police also say they don't have any suspects in custody, but they do believe it was targeted. If you have any information in this case, call 911. Another man is in custody this morning after killing one person during a shooting spree near Phoenix. Investigators say 3 other people were also shot and another 9 were hurt by shrapnel and debris from cars being shot and crashes caused by all the panic. They're also expected to be okay. Police say the spree lasted for about 90 minutes and started in Surprise, northwest of Phoenix. Police say now they're focusing on a motive.
We don't know the nexus. We don't know what
The Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, has been saved by a Supreme Court decision. Judges struck down a lawsuit seeking to block the ACA, saying the challengers did not have the right to bring the case. President Biden called it, quote, a big win for the American people. The Health and Human Services Secretary says the Supreme Court's decision will leave millions of Americans with a peace of mind.
Today, millions of families are finding that they can stay on their insurance.
Former President Barack Obama tweeted his reaction, saying, in part, now we need to build on the Affordable Care Act and continue to strengthen and expand it. And looking more closely at health care coverage in our state, government data shows that more than 17,000 Arizonans signed up for health insurance during the first 2 months of the special ACA enrollment period this spring. That brings the total enrollment in the state to 180,000. Special open enrollment periods will continue through August the 15th, and the market will reopen in November for 2022 coverage. Starting today, parts of the Gulf Coast can expect some severe weather. Louisiana's governor declared a state of emergency ahead of today's storm, and the National Weather Service says the New Orleans area could get 8 inches of rain and winds of at least 30 miles per hour. While tropical storm warnings are in effect, it hasn't reached that strength.
On air, online, on your side. You're watching KGUN 9 News at 6.
This does represent a historic investment in our country's infrastructure, and it meets the needs of folks who live from Virginia out to Arizona.
A bipartisan agreement on the president's infrastructure plan tonight. More from Kyrsten Sinema on the bill and what it means for Arizonans. I'm Chandrea Thomas. The White House and key lawmakers say they have a deal to pay for the infrastructure plan that helps our country run, and it's a plan to spend about $1.2 trillion over 8 years. And Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema led the bipartisan effort to develop that plan. Now on your side's Craig Smith has more on what it means for Southern Arizona.
KGUN 9 on your side sports.
From Damascus to Tokyo, one Syrian refugee who fled war as a teen is now competing in the Olympics. Ben Shamiso has a story. And finally tonight, a 3-month-old fox in Kentucky is using a custom-made wheelchair to help her get around. Oh, her name is Asia, and she was born unable to use her back legs. There was no sign of injury that required surgery, so she's going through physical therapy to straighten out her back and build some leg muscle. And it's already showing signs of working because the staff at Kentucky Wildlife Center says that she's actually starting to jump and pounce, and so the therapy is working. And I just want to cheer for Asia and cheer for some rain.
Yeah, it just makes you want to go, aw.
It is one of those moments there, Kyler.
That is so cute, and good luck to her with that.
After causing evacuations and temporary shutdowns on I-10, the Walnut Fire is now moving north away from the highway. Now on your side's Craig Smith is live along I-10 with an update. Craig. Now let's get over to Kyler Diggs. And Kyler, you know, there was some rain today. I felt it all coming down on my way to work, but I'm wondering, was it enough to help those firefighters?
Yeah, it really is, because
The National Interagency Fire Center says there are currently 14 fires actively burning in the state of Arizona. The largest one is a telegraph fire at 180,000 acres, and of those 14 fires, 6 of them are under a Ready, Set, Go evacuation program. And multiple national forest locations in Arizona are shutting down because of the growing fire danger. The Coconino and Kaibab forests both closed today. The Apache Sitgreaves and that national forest will close tomorrow. And in the meantime, the Prescott Forest will close on Friday, and some areas of the Tonto National Forest will stay open despite a Stage 3 forest closure. On top of that, 2 state parks, Slide Rock and Tonto Natural Bridge, are also closed. The Coronado National Forest in southern Arizona is still open to visitors. Marana ranchers are coming together to help fellow ranchers devastated by the wildfires. Earlier today, dozens of ranchers gathered inside of the Marana stockyards to raise money to send to ranchers affected by the wildfires. Among those who donated was an 8-year-old boy and his father.
I donated my calf because all the ranches were burning down.
I just thought it was awful good of him thinking, being 8 years old, to think of something like that. It makes me proud of raising him the way I have.
They were able to raise over $12,000 in 20 minutes, and the owner of the stockyard said the fires can wipe out feed, shrubbery, trees, and even watering holes, leaving nothing for cattle to eat. Coming up tonight at 6, hear what they're sending over to ranchers in need. And tonight we have more details on the budget the Pima County Board of Supervisors voted on last night. Aside from reducing the county's property tax rate, the board approved $10 million for a preschool education program, and the county will fund scholarships for qualifying families. $85 million will cover repairs on 300 miles of road, and funding will also go towards improvements on Houghton Road and widening a section of Cove Road. The board also approved money for the Pima County Sheriff's Department to buy body cameras and tasers for all deputies. And the state has passed a new budget, including investments in education, public safety, infrastructure, and the single largest tax cut in state history. Governor Doug Ducey says the budget is a big win for all Arizonans, and the tax relief will help working families and small businesses. The budget proposal is headed to the House and then the governor's desk. All right, let's check back in with Kyler Diggs. And Kyler, I know we desperately need that rain, but it looks like we need a lot more to get things on track.
oh, we really do. And we got to remember.
The White House is outlining a new strategy to fight rising gun violence in our country, how the president's plan works, and what some Republicans are saying is the cause for the spike in shootings. You're watching KGUN 9 on your side. President Biden lays out his strategy to handle a spike in gun violence across the country, and the announcement comes as he faces criticism over rising murder rates and as Congress debates a comprehensive police reform bill. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has details from Washington. Kyler has a final look at some possible rain in the forecast after the break. You're watching KGUN 9 on your side. And finally tonight, scientists believe that Venus might not be what they call a dead planet. Researchers at North Carolina State University found evidence that suggests that the planet may still be geologically active. And in the study, they found that the tectonic motion on Venus happens in a way similar to what happens right here on Earth. All right, Carla, let's go ahead and get another look at that rain possibility.
Yes, exactly. And we still early next week.
All right, thank you, Kyler, and thank you for joining us. World News Tonight is next. We'll see you back here at 6.
On air, online, on your side. You're watching KGUN 9 News at 6.
The state of Arizona and Pima County both approving budgets for the next fiscal year. We have a breakdown of those numbers. But first, more than 20 fires are burning right now in the state of Arizona. The Walnut Fire has charred another 2,000 acres since yesterday. And there's also some good news, though, on the fire front, how those who were evacuated from Dragoon can now go home. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Chandrea Thomas. Pat Paris has the night off. The Walnut Fire grew overnight, but it's having less of a regional impact today. Yesterday, it shut down I-10 for hours, but it's now running smoothly as the fire front moves further away from the road. Not on your side's Craig Smith is live at the Texas Canyon Rest Area with more. Craig. Unaccompanied children surrender to Tucson Border Patrol as Vice President Kamala Harris plans a trip to El Paso. Why she's facing criticism, plus a spike in violent crime. We hear from President Joe Biden about the nationwide trend. You're watching KGUN 9 on your side. It's been a busy 24 hours for border officials here in Tucson. Get this, more than 70 unaccompanied minors have been surrendered to agents in the sector within the last day. Border Patrol Chief John Modlin tweeted this picture earlier today of dozens of kids lined up along the side of the road. So far, there's no word on the national origin of the children, but the chief says our sector of the border has seen a 160% spike in unaccompanied migrant children this fiscal year. Vice President Kamala Harris is set to visit the southern border on Friday. She's headed to El Paso, Texas, amid pressure from Republicans and some border Democrats to see the migrant crisis firsthand. Harris leads the Biden administration's border effort, but has yet to visit the southern border as vice president. The visit comes before a trip to Texas by former President Donald Trump. The White House says politics did not play a role in the decision to visit the border. And tonight, the president is addressing a growing problem across the country, violent crime. This as 2020 became the deadliest year of gun violence in decades, with cities seeing 30% more killings than last year compared to the year before. Reporter Mary Maloney has a breakdown of the problem and what President Joe Biden has to say.
My fiance was
Tyler Diggs.
All right, Carla, you have another look at that forecast. Is there more rain on the way?
There is, but we're going to have to be patient.